Now we're in question number 5 on the ACT English test. Let's begin by reading the sentence as is. A key finding from her intensive field studies is the extent to which elephant survival depends on learned behavior. Now let's say you're not quite sure, punctuation-wise, why one answer would be correct over the other. In that case, again, we're going to go to our concision technique. So we need to find the most concise answer. The most concise answer is going to be the one that has the least amount of punctuation or the least amount of words. Which one is that? Right, that would be answer choice B. That would be the most concise answer. It has the least amount of punctuation. So now the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to subvocalize. And that's where we read it out loud and hear how it sounds. A key finding from her intensive field studies is the extent to which elephant survival depends on learned behavior. How does that sound? Right, that sounds fine. And because it's the most concise answer, and when I subvocalized it, it sounded smooth, it's most likely going to be right. And if you're short on time, you should just pick answer choice B and move on. 80% of the time, that'll get you to the right answer. But let's go through these other options and figure out why they're wrong. Well, A has a comma here and a comma here. First of all, if these were coordinate adjectives, which is what this comma would be for, we wouldn't want to put a comma between the last adjective and its noun, right? So that's a rule. If you don't know that, then write that down. You can't put a comma between the last adjective and its noun, right? So that would have to go away. So A is automatically incorrect because it does add a comma between the last adjective and its noun. So A is gone. Now let's look at C. Why is C incorrect? So C has a comma right after this word studies. So in other words, instead of these commas here, I have a comma at the end, right there. So just forget about these commas for a second. What is studies? Well, that's a noun. It's also the subject. What is the verb of this sentence? Well, the verb is. Okay, so we have a problem here because now I have a comma between its subject and its verb. Commas separate out usually essential information from non-essential information, unless it's items in a series like in this case here. So what we're saying is that the verb is not essential or the subject is not essential. But that can't make sense because they're both essential in order to understand the meaning of the sentence. So you should recognize that we should not separate a subject from its verb, and the ACT loves to bring questions into light that separate subjects from their verbs. So answer choice C is going to be incorrect. Okay, so now we're just left with answer choice D. Okay, so now what's going on with answer choice D? Let's take a look here. So answer choice D has one comma here, right? No comma separating out this adjective and its subject. Why would this be wrong? Right? If these were coordinate adjectives, intensive, comma, field studies, that would be just fine. But in fact, these are not coordinate adjectives. Intensive over here is not modifying studies. It's actually modifying field. The intensive field studies. And how do I know that's the case? Well, if I were to flip those two words, field and intensive, it would sound awkward. A key finding from her field intensive studies, you see how that changes the meaning of what I just read? And because it changes the meaning of what I just read, answer choice D must be incorrect because these are not coordinate adjectives. And I use commas to separate out coordinate adjectives. So because intensive modifies field, which modifies studies, again, answer choice B would have to be correct, and D would be wrong. So there's two techniques again for figuring out what the correct answer is. The first is use the concision technique, subvocalize it. 80% of the time, that'll get you there. Or I could recognize that A is incorrect because it separates out an adjective from a noun, which is wrong. C is incorrect because it separates out a subject from its verb, which is wrong. And D is incorrect because it assumes that these are coordinate adjectives, but when I flip these words, field intensive studies, I recognize that that makes no sense. So because they're not coordinate adjectives, they're non-coordinate adjectives, and you don't need to memorize those words. B would have to be the only correct option. Thank you.